Recording. Hello. Hi, everyone. I'm starting fresh. This is Nayang. As you all know, me from various parts of life. I wanted to host an online discussion about things that I learned from various components of my life. Some of you have heard bits and pieces of my experiences with these things over the past year or two. Oh my gosh, I even have people on this call who I never thought would ever show up to a virtual meeting again. But anyway, since not everyone knows everyone here, I wanted to just let you know that I plan to enable video and audio for this discussion. You are welcome to, if you are able, but offspring and spouses and pets are most welcome to participate in this discussion just as much as you are. Secondly, I did call this an online discussion, and I really mean that. I see that some people have like their pens ready to take notes. I might give some things that are helpful for starters, but really like I am no expert in any of these areas. And I organized this to invite a diversity of experiences from all of you. So please know that your thoughts are welcomed either via audio or via chat throughout. And thirdly, this is meant to be fun. This is a dramatic pause for emphasis. If you are not having fun, please feel free to drop. I will not be offended. I think slides are fun, which is why I made slides. And that's why you see like a virtual brother that's like coming in and out of my virtual background, because I think it's funny. This is not meant to be a work meeting or another classroom. I know we're in plenty of these throughout the day. This is meant to be fun. So please just keep those things in mind as we engage in this discussion. Those are the three ground rules I want to set. Are there any other expectations or questions people have around expectations for this discussion before we get started? I do see a question in the chat box. It is a very good question. I do. So right now, this Zoom meeting is a free Zoom meeting, which is typically constrained to 40 minutes. But Zoom told me that they're feeling generous today and that they will likely extend my meeting past 40 minutes, which is why I decided to take a risk. If we get cut off at the 40-minute mark, then so be it. We have just had a really fun 40-minute discussion. If it's 40 minutes and we get cut off at a terrible time, you just send me an email. Okay, everyone has my email. You just send me an email of things that you wish we talked about, and then we can arrange a follow-up if necessary. Great question. I also know that many of you, oh, yeah?
Sorry, you can keep going.
No, Kristen, I need a water break. Now's a good time for someone else to talk.
Will we get swag after this presentation?
It depends.
Okay.
That's the only reason why I came was for the swag.
I'm only here for the free swag and the refreshments.
Yeah.
So
And you, of course.
Okay, so this seems like a great transition time for me to pivot. I just want to acknowledge that there are some of you who have kindly offered your licensed Zoom accounts that are offered through your employers. I don't feel comfortable using my employer's licensed Zoom account for a personal use, which is why I have not. Some of you who are in the legal profession might understand why I am doing so. Others who just value data and privacy might also understand why I'm choosing to do so. So I'd rather be cut off. Oh, hello. I'd rather be cut off than to do something that is a gray area. No offense to those of you who use your license accounts for personal purposes. No judgment. Your decision, just like your financial decisions. I don't talk to you about your financial decisions because that's your own decision. Anyway, so to get started, I thought it'd be fun to recap the survey results that I asked those of you who were interested in this casual poll that I did on Instagram to fill out. Please note that the N of the survey results were 15, which is, as you all know, less than 30. That means this is not statistically significant. This is a non-anonymous limited sample size, so please take everything with a grain of salt. Many of you answered these survey questions, and whenever I ask people for input or feedback, I think they deserve to know what the aggregate results say. So here you are. This is why you give your free information to Google, and sometimes we get it back in the form of advertisements. I asked, where in the world are you? As you can see, it's a very diverse group of people from all over the US, Asia, and I don't know what do I consider Hawaii? That's the US, right? But it's like somewhere between the US and Asia. Can someone correct me?
You are correct.
Okay, cool. So Kristen, who just spoke, is currently in Hawaii, and she's whipping out her pen or pencil and her notebook. Wow, I'm so excited. Kristen is a friend of mine from Seattle. So just for quick high-level intros, a number of you are friends from Seattle. So that's Kristen, Chaz, Dan. I think that's it. Most of you are friends from Michigan. And then some of you are friends I made in Singapore. So that's Beth, Charlotte, Joanna, Anjali. Hey, I got your name right now. 5 years later, I got your name, I hope. Okay, I don't know. But the rest of you are friends from Michigan, whom I have kept in touch with, thankfully, over time. Most of you are not in Michigan anymore. You've moved on to other things in your life, or you're still in Michigan. I still love you. I'm glad you could join us wherever you are. I asked, what topic are you most interested in hearing about? And it seems like there is a majority vote for the crossover or the intersection. So I have framed my slides with the people's desires in mind. I also asked some open-ended questions of what are your expectations, hopes, or desired outcomes? And I got a wide range. I grouped these. I'll give about 30 seconds for you to peruse through the raw data inputs if you would like. I muted myself so I could yell at my parents to please keep it down. Okay, so since there are some people who are here just out of curiosity, and some people here just to support me as a friend, I will keep things very high level, leave room for questions, and then see how things go from there. Does that sound good? Thumbs up? Uh-huh. No violent objections, right? Cool. I also asked, like, anyone have comments, questions, anything else you'd like me to know? And then, you know, the people asked for prizes. The people asked for refreshments. The people asked for recordings of materials and resources, some of which I can provide right now, some of which I am not equipped to provide right now. Please be understanding of what is capable, what is possible, what is feasible, and what is impractical. But I just want you to know that I hear your requests, and I have tried really hard to answer as many of them as possible. Okay, so discussion topics. These are the 3 things that we'll be talking about. Questions and comments are welcome throughout. Now it seems like a good time for me to pause and ask if anyone has questions before we dig into the first topic.
Why are you doing this?
I'm a weirdo.
That's fine. Just curious if something in particular sparked your desire to do it.
Okay, why am I doing this? That's a great question, Esther Pion, wife of Daniel Pion. I'm just kidding. Sorry, I know how to pronounce your name correctly. I promise. I'm just making fun of people who can't pronounce it. It's Pion, by the way, Pion. Like the Pion on my side, 남편, husband. For all the non-Korean speakers out there, those are good words to know. 내 편, my side. 남편, husband. Okay, so why I'm doing this, I have no ulterior motives. I'm just doing this because this year sucks. And I have not been able to, oh my gosh, I might cry. I
Aw.
have not been able to see as many friends in person this year as I would typically do. If this was a typical year, I would have taken a few trips to see many of you. I would have gone to some of your weddings. I would have gone to some of your graduations, some of your children's celebratory occasions. But we all know the white elephant in the room. So why I'm doing this is I just miss my friends. And why I chose this topics is I just did like some polls on Instagram, which I do not take seriously. And then I realized, wow, like there's actually a lot of people who want to hear about these topics or who want to talk about these topics in a safe space. So I know we all have varied experiences with many of these things. And I just wanted to create a space where people could share their varied experiences. Secondly, as some of you know, I have shared metaphors in my everyday speech, comparing some of these things to each other. So like last year, I was on the market to buy a home and I was touring a bunch of homes. And then I compared the process of dating someone to the process of buying a home. Some people were very bothered by my metaphor. They were concerned that my then boyfriend, who was in the room, would be offended by such a metaphor. So I debriefed with some of my friends after that group hangout. Remember those group hangouts when they used to happen? So one of you called me out essentially the day after, and they're like, hey, like, should you have said that in front of Dan? Don't you think that made him feel uncomfortable? And I was like, honestly, I understand like why you might think that. And I understand why like most human beings would not do something like that in a group setting. But you have to understand, this guy I'm dating is like really unusual. The relationship that I have with him is really unusual in that we can be awkwardly direct and transparent about these kind of things we're thinking. And we know that it won't be misinterpreted. So, real story that happened, like, okay, not to like name shame anybody, but okay, I won't say any names, but she's raising her hand. She said that to me, right? Kristen was there in the room and I was dating Dan Miller, who's in this virtual room right now then. Dan Miller was in that room. And then of course, like I called Dan Miller actually immediately after that party and I asked like, hey, like, were you bothered by that thing that I said? And then he was like, no, I thought it was funny. Dan, please feel free to elaborate.
You're telling the story just fine. I don't need
Okay.
to elaborate anything.
Yeah. So, you know, I recognize not every relationship works like that. But my relationship with Dan back then was a little unique in that we were able to poke fun at things of that sort. So anyway, this is like a really long context. Great question from Esther. Any other questions before we jump into the first hot topic?
I'll say, is that your segue into online dating?
Yes. So first question. I know many of you have had experiences. Would anyone like to share their experiences based on any of the questions on this page?
So my name's Andrew. I went to the same church as Nayang. So I'm currently still in Detroit. And the comments I would make about this is that I feel online dating, it really depends on which location or city that you live in. Because for me, living in Detroit, the types of people that you might get matched up can be a bit limited. Because when I did visit friends in like bigger cities, like in Chicago or San Francisco, I noticed that the recommendations was a lot wider. So I think that was definitely something that's very dependent on your location. So like there are certain games out there where if you're in rural environments, it sucks. And I think that's the same thing with online dating. I think the thing that it does do very well and what it works is that it helps you to really figure out what you actually value, because you get matched up with a lot of different types of people in this world. And let's just say that some of them, you didn't realize those types of people could exist, but they really do. And you didn't realize that some things that you probably didn't know that you cared about, you actually do care about, because you'll meet somebody that does not value what you actually value the same way. So I think it's a good way to put yourself out there. It's a good way for you to really test yourself in what you really care about. And I would say one thing about it that makes it difficult is that it can be a little tough to juggle multiple conversations at the same time with it. I know that that's probably a bigger issue for girls on dating apps, but I think in general, it's tough, especially whenever conversation with people. You don't know when it's like, oh, well, I don't know how much you care about COVID right now. So I guess we're talking just through this chat, but there's like 2 other people that I'm talking to at the same time. So I'm not sure we're at the same time. So
Andrew, those are 3 really great points I heard from you already. Is it okay if I interrupt you here?
yeah, sure.
So Andrew brought up 3 really interesting points. I'm taking notes too. This is how I learned to actively listen, working in education. Yay, go Yale NUS educators out there. Anyway, so I heard 3 things from Andrew. 1 is the limitations of location. 2 is the benefits of discovering what you value. And the 3rd is the challenges of having multiple conversations / COVID. Does anyone have additional thoughts on any of those things?
I don't have additional thoughts on those particular things, but I have other things to add to.
Yeah, but you gotta wait. You gotta wait your turn, mister.
Okay.
Sorry, we'll come to you if no one else has any thoughts. Okay, I also want to just clear the air. In case you're wondering why I was so rude to that person who just spoke. So I am not rude to all my friends, but if I feel close enough to joke around with you, I will sometimes be sarcastic or I will interject you when you're speaking. All of you, I feel comfortable enough. I feel like we have a foundation of trust in our relationship where I know that I will not be shunned for trimming your tangent speech. So anyway, just to clear the air, this is a disclaimer statement. I have quite a bit of experience in the online dating space. Wow, that makes me sound so legit. I'm not. I have seen a number of people through. Okay, some people think this is really funny. Okay, the important thing is that I have had my share of experiences, good and less than good, and that I am currently in a relationship with someone that I met through an app. And the last part is that someone is on this call, and that if you haven't guessed who that someone is, it's the person that I just cut off. So we met online. We met through Coffee Meets Bagel, which some of you have experienced in, some of you have gotten married through or are engaged to your partners through. I used to be quite anti online, whatever, dating, meeting. I was skeptical. I thought, there are other ways I can meet people. And then I decided to be open-minded. Because I heard a few success stories, a few bad stories, but a few success stories. And the success stories were enough for me to try. I'm not claiming that this is the solution for everybody. I'm just trying to encourage anyone who is looking in this space to be open. Okay, does anyone else have thoughts on this topic of online dating? If not, we'll let
I
Mr.
speak
Mr.
now,
Miller
or-
speak. Yeah, I guess you can speak.
Okay. So I would just add, there's like a couple of things about online dating. So I also was a heavy online dating skeptic, never really used the applications that much. In the brief time that I did use it, I found success, as Nayang has elaborated on extensively. But I will say, like, there are some drawbacks, major drawbacks that I think, like, perception wise, right? So I think online dating, so I think online dating in general has the perception of like a hookup culture, right? But then also, I mean, there's just like so many applications that are out there, right? So I think like, I mean, I remember like way back in the day when it was like eHarmony and like Match.com and stuff like that. I don't even know if those applications are still like used or used to any degree. You know, I think there has been more push from paid services to free services, such as Tinder, Coffee Meets Bagel, et cetera, et cetera. And, you know, there's just constantly this revolving door of new applications that are coming out. And I'm always kind of curious, like what the customer, like when these businesses create their model, if their customer are people, if they're trying to cater to like actually creating real relationships, or if they're trying to cater to like this hookup culture that I spoke of earlier. And so I think that's something to be mindful of when you like look at these applications and what to choose. I did not use Tinder because of that perception. I gave Coffee Meets Bagel a try. I don't even like know. I think maybe I saw it on Shark Tank, I think. I don't know. But I think that one of the positives of online dating that I noticed from what I would have done traditionally, which is like meet space dating, is that it gives you an opportunity to meet people that you would not traditionally have got a chance to interact with, right? So if generally you're
Okay,
trying to date
I think we
people-
get the point, Mr. Miller.
Come on, let me finish my thought.
You got to
Jeez,
wrap up. You got 10 seconds left.
10 seconds, that's a lot.
Other people
Anyways,
want to
I'm
say
just saying that,
things.
like, so one of the pros I would say is that online dating lets you like meet people that you wouldn't normally meet. I think the drawback is that similar to any social media platform, you're seeing a person that you don't get to see like who that person actually is because you didn't meet them in like real space. You're meeting their projection, like what they want people to think of them, right? So it's like no different than Instagram or Facebook.
Yep. Okay, we get it. Great.
Fine, okay, whatever.
Mr. Miller, you point to the varied products available in this realm. So some focus things like a hookup culture versus a more serious relationship. I think all of us knew that. You also point to how online dating gives you access to more people that you might not be exposed to on a day-to-day realm, right? So great points. I just want to add on to something that my friend Andrew Pan started out with, which is a limitation being location-specific data or location-specific matches. And I will say I have tried Coffee Meets Bagel in a number of places I've lived in: Philadelphia, Singapore, and Seattle. Of the 3 cities I tried it in, there is one city that is smaller than another. Does anyone want to answer or take a guess at which city is the smallest of the 3?
Seattle.
Are you being a troll right now?
No.
And I guessed Seattle too, so you're not alone.
Really?
Yeah. What's up with this harsh judgment night? What's going on?
Really? Oh my gosh. I'm a little shocked right now, but I apologize for the judgment that I just imposed on me. I did have a moment of shock because I thought everyone knew how small the city state of Singapore is. I thought everyone knew that, but I apologize. That was a very egocentric point of view for me to assume. I apologize for making anyone who felt judged.
Wait, isn't Singapore like demographic? Like I thought it was like very concentrated population, right?
Do any Singaporeans on the call want to chime in here of their opinion of the matter?
Hello, I'm Joanna and I'm in Singapore. I'm Naeung Tun. Singapore is very concentrated, but the population is very small and not everyone is on dating apps. So exactly like what Andrew said earlier, the number of people that you probably get matched to or that you'll probably get to come into contact with is a lot smaller compared to a typical US state, I would think. But that's just me also
So
assuming that the US is more sparse, more, like there are more people there.
thank you, Jojo, Mojo, who's currently engaged to someone that she met online. So there is some contributions in chat right now of tips for online dating and some thoughts from Singaporeans who are unable to speak audibly right now for varying circumstances, i.e. taking care of their parents. So just to bring us back to the point, of the 3 markets that I've tried it in, Singapore, I felt was the smallest market. I felt it was the smallest because I opened the app and then I saw, shock, my worst nightmare. I saw my students. Anjali and Charlotte and Beth are cringing right now because they know how difficult it is as an educator to come across your client or your students in an unprofessional setting. Oh my gosh, and Beth says that it happened to her too, terrible. Kristen finds this interesting. She thinks this is funny. This is not funny. It is tragic when you get matched with your client, your students. It's like if you're a healthcare professional and then you get matched with your patient. It is humiliating.
Sounds like a Hallmark movie.
You want to hide. You're like, oh, I hope I only saw them and that they never saw me, right? So that's why, no, I will not tell you who these students are. Yes, I know you are intrigued. That is personally identifiable information that I will not disclose unless you pay me a lot of money. It's even better if you get matched with a friend's sister. Actually, that's not a bad idea. But anyway, so I think we're at the halfway mark of our time. So I want to try to transition us to the next topic. But I also know that based on the survey results, there was a lot of interest. Oh my gosh! Hi, Oyun. Hi.
Can I ask you a quick question?
No, we're oohing and eyeing over Julie's new baby.
I see him.
Hi. Did you sleep well?
I still have a question. Does
I know-
anyone know,
Yeah.
like, is online dating, like you're describing that experience, like strictly Singapore? Or is it like just how that is like in the entire Far East? Like is like cultural attitudes towards online dating, like
First
in
of all,
Korea
first
or
of
Japan
all,
or China?
First of all, that phrase that you just used, Far East, I don't know if that's politically appropriate.
Is it?
I don't know if that's culturally sensitive. There might be some people who are offended by what you just
Okay, I
said.
apologize.
But we all know you had a good intention, so let's just forgive Daniel and move on. He meant if there were cultural differences for online dating in Asia versus in the West. Many of you on this call have very mixed identities, mixed cultural identities. Some of you are white. You are the whitest person in this call, but you speak better Mandarin than the rest of us. We all know who you are. Hey, Charlotte. Charlotte is fantastic. Her Chinese is the best in our office. So Charlotte, Beth, Joanna, and I, and Yok Tang, who are on this call, we all work together in Singapore. Singapore. And some of us, are ethnically Chinese. But Charlotte Heather Evans, her Mandarin was far above those of us that are ethnically Chinese. I am not ethnically Chinese, but I did learn a tiny bit of Chinese when I was working in Singapore, thanks to good friends like Charlotte, Yup Tang, Jojo, and many others who are unable to attend this call live. Okay, it looks like there's some comments in chat about region specificness, demographics, multi-ethnic, openness to blind dates and apps. Yep, good points. Are there any other additions here? Is Jojo raising her hand? Okay. I know from my individual relationship with you all that many of you have tried this, meeting people online. Some of you, I don't know if you've ever tried things online, and I don't know your barriers to entry. But if you want to talk through your barriers to entry with a friend, I'm happy to talk with you offline about it, because this is probably not a good space for that. Daniel Miller, I see your question in chat. I will answer it offline. Okay, does anyone else have questions or additions on this topic of online dating? So I am revisiting the survey results. And when I asked this question, 0% picked the next topic. 0%. So I might skip over it. Does anyone have questions about home buying? Oh, wait. Oh, there were some questions about it. Does anyone have questions? Okay, so I will answer just the questions that were submitted here by an anonymous person. Was it hard to afford it? Yes. Kind of. It's relative. So I was actually just talking to a Singaporean citizen yesterday about the process of affording a home in Singapore. She was walking me through the process of putting in her name for the Housing Development Board process, public housing, which is offered in Singapore, and the private housing market, which is also available in Singapore. Okay, I will stop. I will stop my terrible accent, which is my attempt to speak with a British accent, which Charlotte Heather Evans can actually do because she's British, but she's remaining silent for some reason. I don't know why. She's not saying anything. So the question about affordability, yes. I think everyone knows, regardless of what market you're trying to buy, that buying anything of great value is difficult. However, I think there are ways to make it more affordable. So I acknowledge, yes, it ain't easy. It's not easy in Singapore. It's not easy in Seattle. It's not easy in the Bay Area. It's not easy in Cleveland. It's not easy anywhere. I do have some thoughts about, I guess, universally applicable thoughts about how to make it more affordable. So one is having a long-term perspective. I think judging very quickly, quick glance, most people in this room, I think the youngest person in this room has been out of college for 2 years? 3 years? 1 year? Okay, I don't know how long you've been out of school, Anjali. You're just out of school, okay? 2 years, cool. 2018, you graduated 2018. So the youngest person is 2 years out of undergrad. The oldest people are 10 plus years out of undergrad right now. Many of us have advanced degrees, which we're questioning now, was that worth all that investment? Let's be real, right? Like, we're like, was that worth taking out all those loans for? I have opinions on that, by the way. So let's talk about that separately. If you're thinking about pursuing another degree, that's not for today's conversation though. I do have opinions on it. And if you want the opinions of other people on this call who have advanced degrees and are now second guessing, was that worth it? I will re-invite them to this conversation. But I don't mean to embarrass anyone on this call. I just appreciate each of you on this call. So some tips for making it more affordable, like start saving early. Like your first job out of school, you're probably not making as much money as you hope for. You have other things you're taking care of, but you can still save a little. Now, what should you do when you're saving money? Should you keep it in a savings account at JP Morgan Chase? Should you keep it at a savings account at DBS Bank? Should you keep it at a savings account at PNC Bank? The answer is, it depends. But would I recommend it? Not really. I have been in individual conversations with some of you about starting up an investment account. It's also known as a brokerage account. This is different from a 401k or a CPF or a 503b. This is separate. This is not an employer-sponsored plan. The first step is if you work for an employer that sponsors a plan, a retirement plan, you should definitely opt in. If you're not opting into your employer-sponsored plan, then I'm judging you hard. The level up is you not just contributing to your employer-sponsored plan, but you maximizing that employer-sponsored plan. So first of
Can I
all,
interrupt, please?
no, let me finish what I'm saying first. Some of you, if you work for an employer who matches your contributions, you need to maximize that contribution. Second of all, even if you don't have that, the IRS places a constraint on how much max you can contribute per year. You should try to get as close to that max number as possible per year. Why? Because it's pre-tax dollars. As many of you painstakingly know, the taxes that are taken from our paychecks before we even see it in America are exorbitant. Singapore, wow, taxes, I don't know how they've built that system. What a progressive tax system. I will not comment on politics. I'm not saying Singapore politics will work, but wow, the tax system in Singapore when I worked there was so different. I will not comment on that, but you should try to maximize on your employer-sponsored plan as much as possible. And then beyond that, if you're in a place where you have some wiggle room of savings, I recommend you open a brokerage account to start investing early, even if it's $5. Okay, Dan, what did you want to say?
I would say when you talk about employee-sponsored retirement plan, are you talking specifically if the employer matches?
No.
So even if the employer doesn't match, you still think it's worth putting your money, like saving your money through your employee-sponsored like 401k plan?
Yes.
As
Why am
opposed
I
to doing
saying
like independent like research and finding a personal IRA plan.
Both.
Okay.
Why am I saying you should still do the employer 401k option, the retirement plan option, even if they don't match? Why am I saying that? I know Andrew Penn probably knows the answer to this question. Why? Why should you do that?
Well, it does depend on your tax bracket though too, but oftentimes if you find ways to actually make yourself, you could potentially drop yourself to a lower tax bracket. That's one advantage. That doesn't apply to most people, but that is one advantage.
Yeah, that's right.
Another thing with the 401k in general is that, I mean, it's tough because you do have to weigh in other possible ways you can invest in the money, but if you are doing that as a pre-tax dollar, yes, you will ultimately be paying taxes on it when you withdraw it when you become older later on in life. But by maximizing it into that investment option, at least, you are at least trying to capitalize on that specific investment option, because there is a reason why there is a limit on it, and you can't always leverage that thing that's given to you.
Mhm,
It's like a thing that not everyone has the opportunity to leverage a 401k.
mhm.
So you should leverage it if you have it. And there's a reason there's a limit to it too. So, I mean,
Mm-hmm.
if you're able to afford it, that's the biggest question because
Yes.
honestly, it's not easy to maximize the contribution
No, it's not.
for both people all the time. So that's the thing. I mean, like there's a lot of people debate about what the best options are, but that's probably the easiest solution is to maximize that. That's like but I think most people, it's hard to do that.
That's right.
That's how I would answer it.
That's right. Yeah. Andrew, I agree with everything that Andrew said. So the short is it depends. But I know that will not be a satisfactory answer to give in a complex topic like this, which is why I didn't just say it depends. There are a lot of variables to this situation, which is why I am not a financial advisor. And this is why you should not take anything that I'm saying as professional advice. This is not a solicitation or input or recommendation to sell your securities. It's a very individual personal decision given other financial decisions you're making. So for those kind of particulars, I recommend speaking with a professional, which is not me. Andrew, I agree with your opinion. So when it comes to money, the high level principles that I think that apply to everyone is we all have choice. First of all, we have choice of whether we're going to earn money or we're going to give money. Some of you are giving money right now because you're in school. Some of you are getting paid way less than you should be because you're in residency. Life is unfair. I am so sorry that American healthcare pays you the amount that they do as a resident or as a chief. As someone on the front lines, you should not be being paid less than a software engineer, in my opinion. Right? But who cares about my opinion, right? So the important thing is to save early, even if it's not a lot of money, and find ways to grow that savings through X, Y, or Z. If you're not sure where to start, just talk to your friends, talk to your brother, talk to your sister, your mother, or your financial advisor. If you don't have any of those options to talk to, you can ask me for my input with a huge disclaimer that I'm not a professional. Okay. I do want to touch quickly on the key considerations when buying a home or how I navigated buying a home as a solo person / like not married, buying with a partner, etc. Key considerations when buying a home, it depends on your core values. Most people consider owning a home as an investment. So it depends, what are you trying to prioritize in your property investment? And where does that align? That mix of demand and supply match? So for me, when I approached my search, I knew I was looking for a 3-bedroom, at least 1,500 square feet, less than 20 years old, in the city of Seattle proper. If you submit those filter terms in any online search, you will get thousands of results. You will realize, why are there so many options? Just like if you start your online dating profile and you start looking for age, somewhere within 5 years, plus or minus, location, somewhere within 50 miles of you, religious preferences, ethnic preferences, hobby preferences, you might get more results than you're able to digest. Or you're getting too few results than you're able to consider, right? So I think when we get results like that, that gives us cues of how to narrow down or how to widen our searches. So for example, when I was in Singapore, and I tried my Coffee Mats Bagel account, I had some criterion that I considered non-negotiables. I got some results. I had some embarrassing moments. And then I realized, I think given this current market and limited sample size, it might be good for me to broaden my criteria. So I re-looked at my filters. So initially I started out like saying, oh, I think I would prefer someone that's Korean. They don't have to be Korean, but I would prefer if they were Korean, right? Or had some Korean roots. And then as I realized the limitations in the results, I was like, oh, maybe I should be more like flexible with that. Why do I gotta be so racist? Right? Like, why do I gotta think that Koreans are the best or something, right? Like they're not. So I realized like, oh, I think I might be more open to that versus like, I wasn't willing to move on some other things. Like I wasn't willing to move on like what religious stance that they had, right? So I decided, okay, like I think I'm open to non-Korean. So the first guy that I dated actually was not Korean. And as you might expect, that had some ramifications within my Korean household. Anyway, so I think it just comes down to knowing your values, being willing to adjust as you see the results as they come in. Like, don't be frustrated if you see that the results are too many or too few. I would interpret that as a cue to adjust, right? We only have 10 minutes left, so I'm prone to transition to the next topic. Are there any questions around the second topic of home buying before I move on? Dan, I see your comment in chat. I will give my opinion on that separately. Maybe Andrew will give his opinion on it separately. Andrew is a very analytical, detail-oriented, well-researched person. I believe his major in undergrad was industrial operations engineering. Is that right, Andrew? No? Shoot, I'm wrong.
I was a mechanical engineer.
Dang
I
it.
was an industrial operations engineer. Well, the work I do right now, though, has nothing to do with mechanical engineering. So.
Yeah, that's fine. But
it's funny because just as a joke with engineering, IOEs are usually the ones that people would make fun of. But in today's modern space, IOE is the hot engineering degree to get because it has so many applications all over the place.
Yeah.
Like consulting and stuff. So
interesting.
But I mean, I think just what Dan was commenting on, I think a lot of stuff with finances really depends on your personal situation.
Yep.
And that it really depends on, like with IRAs and 401ks, there's all these pros and cons and stuff like that. But in my opinion, at least, the lowest hanging fruit for advice to people is just to maximize an employer-sponsored plan if possible, just because it saves you the headache of doing research with other brokerage account providers and also fees and things like that. So I think that's the main thing. Like, it takes the middleman out for your effort and just lets it be done by the employer, which is a nice benefit.
Yep. Lowest hanging fruit. I'm all about that low hanging fruit. I love fruit. Even the high hanging ones I like. But if they're low ones, then I want to grab them first. So great metaphor from Andrew. All right. So the last topic is career advising. And I only got one comment around this realm. Before we tackle this topic, are there any questions from the room about career advising or any of the topics that we've covered so far? I am running out of water, so I have to do a little less speaking. I have no problem with that.
Why did you get into career advising?
Great question, Daniel Pyun. I got into career advising a few years ago because I realized a lot of people are very anxious and stressed about their careers. I realized that many of my friends, when they're thinking about applying for jobs, updating their resume, preparing for an interview, negotiating their offer, that they're overwhelmed with stress and anxiety, which are very valid, common feelings. My analysis was that a lot of those feelings were spurred by lack of information, lack of access to information. What I mean is, for me, who had gone through the process 1 or 2 or 3 times before, because I had a little more information than some of my friends, I felt, more equipped to approach a stressful, overwhelming, ambiguous, complex process. So I did everything I could in my free time, weekends or evenings, to help my friends who are interviewing for jobs or updating their resumes, etc. And I always thought, wow, like, to share my information with people for free and to help ease their anxieties and their stress levels, that is a great privilege and honor. So I happily did it for fun, for free, without charge, in my free time, as a hobby. Most people thought I was really weird. There's probably only one person on this call right now who doesn't think that was weird, because Andrew Pan also does the same for his friends. He helps his friends with resumes and interviews because he finds this not as stressful as he once found it before. So I spent the first 4 years of my life working for a marketing consulting firm, and then in the evenings and weekends, spending a lot of time with hubes, or the next generation behind me, either through business school or through church, and had a lot of these personal conversations with soon-to-be graduates about to enter the workforce. I did it, voluntarily in my free time, happily, without pay. And then I realized, like, oh, actually, like, this can be a career. Career advising can be a career. I didn't know it could be a career. So I looked into the options and then got a master's degree in it, and then did it for several years. Some people on this call are people who our relationship deepened as a result of some of these questions that we had. A lot of these questions about career advising started with a focus about careers, but often led to deeper conversations about values, identity, expectations, relational dynamics, right? Some of it led to tears. Some of these conversations made me feel uncomfortable. But they were really enriching conversations. And if I were to give like a more honest reason of why I kept doing it, it's I never felt called to be like a pastor or missionary, full-time paid in that way kind of person. I always envisioned myself as a, tent maker, working a full-time job, doing something else, and then looking for ways to help other people. I don't have particularly skilled labor where I could like fix people's hearts or teeth. But I did recognize that this need is quite prevalent among many people groups, many ages, many markets. So I just saw this as my unique calling to be a messenger, a comforter, in some way, shape, or form. And that's why I did that for a full-time job for several years. As Esther might have whispered in your ear, I am no longer doing this full-time. And I have a longer explanation of why. If you're interested in it, I will tell you about it another time. I'm no longer pursuing career advising as a full-time paid gig. And I have some reasons for that too. Right now, I still love engaging in these conversations about career next steps, about core values, about aspirations, dreams, goals. I love helping people reach their goals. So with 1 minute left in our time together, I think this is a good time for me to wrap up what worked/didn't work across all of these spheres of my life. I think being open worked. Being narrow-minded did not. Knowing my core values or my non-negotiables worked. considering my options, researching my options, and then ultimately deciding and moving forward on something rather than being disabled by too much choice or wondering like, is this the right choice? Like being crippled in that stage is not helpful. You just have to move forward at a certain time, right? Just like when you're dating someone at a certain point, you have to be like, okay, I don't really know if I really know this person, but I think I know enough to be willing to commit to the next step. Right? And then you just make a decision and you move forward in faith. Oh, okay. Wow. That was such a natural transition to the last thing on my page. So those are my 4 high level recaps. I would love to hear from you of how you plan to move forward. If there's interest in a follow-up dialogue, I'm happy to help coordinate it. I hope you had fun, which was the learning objective from this conversation. I enjoyed seeing your faces. I enjoyed seeing your names. I enjoyed seeing your offspring, your spouses. I look forward to more. I am not working until January 4th. So if you want to have a separate conversation, video chat, unless I really don't like you, will probably agree to do so. But if I didn't like you, I wouldn't have invited you to this conversation. Thank you for joining me for this online discussion. Please click like and subscribe. Is that what I'm supposed to say, Kristen? I don't know what I'm supposed to say anymore.
You're close.
Like, subscribe, and what's the last one?
Yeah,
Hit
ring
the
that
bell.
bell.
Hit the bell.
Oh, comment.
Get notifications.
Like, comment, and subscribe. Got it. Please
yeah.
like, comment, and subscribe.
Consider supporting me on Patreon.
It's been fun, y'all. I will send you a link to this recording. I will also send it to a few people who specifically asked for the recording because they couldn't join, but I will not circulate this widely without your express permission. Oh, hi, Yaktae. Are you done with the yoga class now? So I'll hang around for a few minutes in case some of you want to loiter. But the official agenda for this meeting is complete. I will officially mark that by stopping the recording now.